Good morning, everyone. Hope you had a good time so far. My name is David. I'm going to tell you a story about like collaboration in a shared container platform scenario, and educate you a bit on FinOps. A bit about myself. So I'm a first time in Hamburg. So I like Hamburg so far very much. And what I noticed, so I stay in the Ibis style hotel. But what I noticed is that nice room icons. So, and of course, that reminded me of, Kubernetes. So we have a delay here. So that is what I noticed. That was what I recognized in Hamburg, and some people called me now nerdy because I just like see Kubernetes everywhere. But it's just the steering wheel of ships. So, but what you should also know about me, maybe, it's that I worked in various roles across my career. So I have 2 kids. I like retro gaming, specifically Nintendo. Star Wars, nothing special, I guess. So I'm typing into keyboard since 1987. So I was like quite early adopter of computers. My father was putting me in front of a computer in 86 with 4 megahertz. And I'm using cloud since public cloud since 2008, and whatever how you define cloud, maybe it's also earlier. So renting someone else's computer for some time. And containers, Kubernetes I came across in 2016. So the FinOps Foundation I joined in 2020. So, you look at this. My contributions to FinOps Foundation, my connections, there are several. So I also have a job for money, but for, let's say, for meaningfulness, I joined the FinOps Foundation. So it's, and I contributed there as a practitioner, and I was also the chair and the maintainer of the SIG containers in the FinOps Foundation. I was also leading the container cost allocation working group in the FinOps Foundation, and I was then contributing into the runbook of shared costs. So you will see that in the framework of the FinOps, you will have several contents, documents, runbooks, etc. So I was like started my contribution with a shared cost allocation, and then I just continued there. I got the chance to review the second FinOps book. So there's also a small passage about the container part, because they asked me about all the container questions. And there's also FinOps for containers training and so on and so forth. And that's also related to the talk. So I'm also a founding member of Open Costs. We will see this as a spin-off of KubeCost. So it's a one and only, I would say, for now, cost allocation open source tool that's out there. And I was like defining the spec for this. But let's talk about FinOps. Who is knowledgeable about FinOps? I mean, David, you know, who heard about it? Okay, so who has access to the Slack of FinOps? Okay, very little, yeah. So they raise the bar, so they are very keen on having real practitioners in the community. So if you're a consultant or a platform vendor, you need to certify before you can enter the Slack. So that's why I asked about the Slack. If you have access to Slack, then you're already in there and you have a certain knowledge. So that's what they want to ensure. So what is FinOps? So I think I would like to start with one of the big misunderstandings of FinOps. Many people refer to it as cloud financial operations, which is completely wrong and is incorrect, because it's this is a discipline that happens in the financial operations, in the finance section, but FinOps is not cloud financial operations, even so it looks like. FinOps is a portmanteau of Finance and DevOps. And this is really, really important. And we will look at this in the presentation here, because it's stressing the collaboration between the different teams. And that is the most important thing and aspect of FinOps. It's not about reducing costs. I mean, this is also, could be one of the goals. It's really mainly about people need to collaborate. So who's causing the costs is not these days not the person who is in charge of the costs. So there's a dramatic change, and that comes from the decentralization. So look at the past. So you had you bought servers in server racks, like 10 or something, and then for 3 to 5 years, and this was your fixed capacity. And you negotiated it, you installed the servers, and then you just use the capacity that you have. So with cloud, obviously, that completely changed. So that was like finance and procurement bought the service, and then was just fixed costs. But with the cloud, of course, it changed dramatically. So we have a high grade of automation, dynamics, variable spend, usage-based, and that created, it's kind of scalable, infinite, in theory at least. I mean, yeah, so, and that leads to a change in, thinking about costs. And this is a survey result from the 2022, how much people spend from all the respondents is you can see here that even some people have a cloud spend over 1 billion. So, right, so there was like huge companies are in there and took the survey. It's kind of representative, I would say. I don't know how much you spend. It's below 1 million. Do you have someone that spends more than 1 million in cloud? Okay, well, yeah. Okay, so I think then FinOps is also something that you should take a look into it. And yeah, a bit of history. It was founded in 2019 by J.R. Stormont. So in case you don't know, J.R. Stormont was a former founder of Cloudability. This is a cloud cost management tool that he sold to Apptio, and then he founded the FinOps Foundation. So, and this is a non-profit organization, the FinOps Foundation. It also belongs to the CNCF and Linux Foundation, and it's really community-based, and there has been a significant growth since it has been founded. So, and we have now, this is from quite accurate from March. So this is a slide that has been shown in the ContainerDays Amsterdam FinOps meeting, and we have and then you have big companies in there, I told you, and if you like to certify yourself, you can also do that. Many people have done this already. Okay, so the FinOps Foundation mission is basically to share best practices and bring people together and collaborate about the best practices and what you can do about it. And they're doing a great job there, and we will see this. And I often myself are quite overwhelmed of the content that the FinOps Foundation is producing, but we'll look at this. So it consists of two major parts, I would say, the FinOps Foundation. The one is the community. It could be Slack, could be working groups where you can get together and contribute and really build assets that other people can use. And we have the framework, and we will look into the framework in more detail. So this is a complete framework, so it consists of many, many parts that you can use and adapt to your current situation. Of course, it's the framework, so that doesn't mean you need to implement all of them, but you can pick and choose what you need at a certain time for a certain problem framework. So, and it looks like this. This is a screenshot from the website. So you have different sections there, and you have subsections there, and you have other pages with lots of content you can click on, and you can really, it's a lot, right? So it's like you are overwhelmed, and I found it myself, even though I spent so much time in the FinOps Foundation with all the content, I found it not too much, but I would say hard to digest, right? So if you're confronted with that, and when I was reading the book, so I had always something in mind, and running the working groups, etc. So that I was testing out all the framework and the assets, and when we developed, and I put a story there of a shared platform team, and I would like to demonstrate it today with part of the framework. And the setting is as following. So we have an e-commerce shop running Kubernetes. Let's take it on AWS, because I think many people know that, the concepts and the terminology, so I use that, but you can use any cloud for that. And we have a platform team for various DevOps teams. DevOps means here end-to-end responsibility, right? So also you build your run-it paradigm, taking care of operational concerns early in the design phase. That is what I mean with DevOps here, because I feel that it's the most misunderstood term in the IT industry, but so just to define it for here, for now, DevOps team end-to-end responsibility, and there's not much FinOps in there, so it could look like this. So we have different personas, we have a shared container platform, we have DevOps teams, team A, team B, we have executives, we have the finance guy and the practitioner here, and let's start. So we take Kubernetes here as a container engine, and simple Docker containers, and let's take one step back. So I believe you are very knowledgeable about containers because we are in ContainerDays, and this is not a new technology. Actually, it's really, really old system-level virtualization. But I would like to refresh for everyone, or setting the scene here, why containers are great. I summarized it for me personally like this. You have a high portability, operational consistency from development to production. You can scale in seconds. They can be very efficient. You can isolate the processes really nice for security, but also for resource constraints. And I think that's really good, and there's nothing wrong with using containers. I cannot think of any disadvantage, actually. And how to manage people that at scale. So yeah, with Kubernetes, that was a good idea. I think that it was released and that most people contributed to it. I think it's still one of the most active open source projects in the world. So Kubernetes is here to stay, and we will use that. But there are also some downsides with Kubernetes. This is a quite new post where people like saying, hey, does it have set back 10 years? And I agree with that statement to some extent, because it takes a lot of effort for Kubernetes, and if you invested in something else before, then you need to kind of start over, right? Storage, networking, data planes, and so on and so forth, so all the pluggable ecosystem. And I was thinking a lot actually why people like Kubernetes, and they got a lot of different answers. You can ask people why do you adopt Kubernetes, then you get like really funny answers like, yeah, because everyone does. I think it's not a good reason. So, but then I would say that with distributed systems you cannot get around. If you use containers, then you cannot get around Kubernetes in a distributed system. So I think it's really great. And they have all these kind of standardized APIs, right? So the rollbacks, the storage orchestration, safe feedback execution. So it gives you everything that you need to run and scale applications. But I personally believe the biggest advantage of Kubernetes is it's designed for extensibility, because the ecosystem is super huge. I'm not talking about necessarily the CNCF landscape that we can all install, but the pluggable interfaces, right? And also custom controllers, operators, so that you can extend custom resource definitions. And I think that is the biggest power of Kubernetes, from my point of view, compared to any other platform, right? So AWS, Azure is a platform, is a cloud platform. Someone made it very opinionated, of course, like the Microsoft or AWS. So they build it in that way, how it is built. And you can use it and like it or not, but you cannot change it. I mean, you can upvote it in GitHub if you don't like something in the service of Azure or something, and then you can hope that the product manager takes the time and will implement your feature. And with Kubernetes, it's, you install it, and if you don't like this policy engine, you drop it and you install something new, or you fork an existing one, and then you just have it. So, and I think this is a really, really nice feature of Kubernetes, and that's why also people call this as a OS of the cloud. So if you remember, like Mesos was OS of the data center, so a bit of talking about large-scale orchestrators. And Kubernetes, if you think of it, it has everything that an operating system has, actually. And so there's also very old tweets. It's probably most of you also know, the Kelsey Hightower, that Kubernetes is a platform to build platforms. And I think that's also very important. It's just a container orchestrator, but it's also just kind of framework to build your platform, right? So, and then you have this huge landscape, and you have the power of choice. You need to select it, you need to integrate it. So, and that can be a lot of fun, right? We all like that, I believe. So landscape, going through it, new tool, what does it do? Is it better? Okay, nice, let's try it out, etc. So, but it also gives you headaches, right? So you need to maintain, integrate all of this. I mean, what people do this, and is it a good idea to build your business on top of Kubernetes? I would say yes, and just looking at the figures, it is also a good adaptation. It's just 2021, I couldn't find a new one. I think it's very representative. So, and you can see here that the Kubernetes-related spend has been growing in the last 2 months, more than 20% in that, and that some people, from a FinOps angle, is like, how much do people pay for Kubernetes in clouds? And you have really people that pay more than 1 million per month. On Kubernetes spend in the cloud. I think it's massive, and that is also then, it is impressive, but you can also argue, is it efficient? Because just having a lot of spend is not. It's just like you pay a lot of money, so and you don't know if it's really worth. And so talking about efficiency, so there are many challenges in the FinOps, from a FinOps perspective, and the FinOps Foundation has these data and reports, and they have the top challenges, and if you look in the top left, you will see that getting engineers to take action has been always named as the biggest issue, and we will touch on some of these key challenges in today's talk. Okay, so how can FinOps and containers help to build and save my business? So that is a good question. And let's go back to our platform. So we have a shared platform team. So from a 5,000 feet view, I'm just setting the context here because it's incredibly important to get the right context here. So we have it's highly simplified. It's not representative. Don't do this in production. So we have one cloud account. We have one cluster that is shared. Let's say, for the sake of simplicity, we have 3 nodes. Then we have namespaces. How do we use namespaces? Super critical, super important, as we will see. We will have the namespace per application. Yeah? So this is what I call like topologies, because with cloud accounts, you can create a certain boundary, and then you have your cluster boundaries, and you have your namespace boundaries, and all that can help us also to looking from from a cost perspective. So this is a setting. We have pods somewhere, and we will not talk today about storage and databases. We will solely focus, because here in this picture, they are outside of the cluster. So I think still many people, who runs databases in the cluster or persistence? Okay, so who runs database outside of the cluster? Yeah, so I think that comes from the time where stateful sets were not so great, and nowadays with operators and look at cloud native PG, I think it's time to revise to run databases on Kubernetes. But this is my personal opinion. I think it's time to revise that, because there are tons of advantages. And I will give a talk just about this topic one day. I feel it's very relevant. Okay, so we have that platform. So let's say we have a platform here in Sterz, and it's running on AWS, as we said. So we take just EKS, the Kubernetes offering, managed one, and this is a platform team that builds a platform. So then we have 4 components mainly. It's like monitoring, so nothing special, just like I put in here Grafana. I think most of you also use at least Grafana dashboards, right? Who's not using Grafana dashboard? Okay, one person. Who's using Grafana dashboards? Yeah, so I'm a big fan of the Grafana dashboards and the multiple data sources and putting all the data together. So this is the observability stack here in our scenario, logs, metrics, traces. And for CI, let's take Tekton, because it's Kubernetes native. We have installed it there. I take Argo CD here for CD tooling. You can also put in Flux here. It doesn't matter. And for safe service, just for illustration purposes, we will have Ingress controller, Nginx, nothing special here, external DNS, external secrets, maybe cross-plane for your resources outside or inside, and the cert manager. So this is I think a very common stack, nothing special, and let's say it do cost 50K, 15K. And on top of that, you have DevOps teams that runs different business domains, and as I said, we have an e-commerce platform here. It's a home log and product cart and checkout, so kind of for one full journey, and together it costs 45K. So that is the exec ask, are we ready to launch? Everyone seems to be ready, so everything is deployed. So we got 500,000 visitors on the platform, so we make 100K of revenue. So we subtract the costs over the invoice. Of course, highly simplified here, and also numbers are easy to calculate. So, and we have a profit of 55K, right? So that's nice, because we have 55K, so everyone is happy. So we make money with the new platform and with the e-commerce shop. And the executive is quite conscious about costs and says, let's make sure we have the costs under control. And now we enter the inform phase, right? So FinOps is split into 3 phases: inform, optimize, and operate, and we go through them. Inform is just the visibility and the cost allocation, and we are in here. So when the finance guy says, okay, I will take care of that, and because it's its job, right? Finance, cost allocation, and keeping costs under control. So now in a cloud environment. And he goes to the business owner. So there's a business owner persona here, and it's like, can you give me the detailed cost overview? Because there's a certain perspective on costs. And then he said, like, yeah, I will get back to you. And he goes to the engineering and said, can you give me the detailed cost breakdown? And he says, let me check. So he goes, he has access, right? So he has AWS Cost Explorer, and he says, yeah, here, compute network storage cost, 45K. There you go. So he takes it, because it's all he gets, and he gets it back to finance, and then he give it back to the finance guy, and the finance guy is really struggling with that, right? Storage cost, compute cost, network cost is not what I need. So, and it's like, I need the cost per application. This is his view. Maybe he has SAP, PSP elements, cost center, cost per team, or cost per application. So, and then he said, I need the cost per application. And then he goes to the engineer and said, yeah, we don't have the cost insights in Kubernetes, because Kubernetes is kind of a black hole, right? So it's like the cloud provider will just charge you for the virtual machines. But how much are the costs inside? Who's producing how many costs in Kubernetes? GCP has started to solve that natively, AWS not, Azure also not. So you need to always need third party to get that, and we will look at this. So he says, like, go ahead, create cost transparency in Kubernetes. So and now we're touching on one of the first principles of FinOps. The team needs to collaborate. So this is the first, and I feel the most important one, and everything else follows. So now we're in the form phase. We have 3 types of costs that we can easily allocate, but we cannot allocate the cost per application team. So, and then he's just thinking, what could I do about the Kubernetes cost? And he goes to the community and to the framework, and he can read up on all the things. There's cost allocation and calculating container costs. And he's then educating himself. You can also do training, as I said, and certifications if you want, and then you become a practitioner. So that's like, we are now the engineer implementing FinOps practices. You can call them an additional role you can think of. You can also have dedicated FinOps practitioners. You don't need to necessarily change your gender. Just the personas have that different genders here, so I had to use that. And container cost allocation labels, this is a working group where we have been working on. So, and there we even produced ready-to-use label sets. So these are on GitHub in the FinOps Foundation that you can download. So and they are, this is a different story for another time, but for you it's just important that there is content that you can simply consume, like labels and a set if you want and need it. Right? So, but you need to check for yourself, you really need this, because our mission is, remember, cost per application. We have namespace per application. We don't need to label anything because the namespace segregates it and segments it already nicely for us. So that's luckily, because label hygiene and tag hygiene is a pain, right? So I don't know if you faced it, but they're always not complete and, I don't know, wrong spelled, and there's a lot of issues with that. So that's labels can help, but you need to check on your topology first what you can already allocate. So going back to the landscape, you have the continuous optimizations down there, and there are many tools for continuous optimization. And if you filter it for open source, we're just looking at open source today, then you will also find some of the tools. So, and you will see that there's KubeCost and OpenCost, and the FinOps has also its own landscape that you can also filter, and I filtered it here for open source again. You can also see like OpenCost is in here, and they picked OpenCost. Right? So it's like, because it's a CNCF project, knowledgeable people build it, like the ex-Googlers that founded KubeCost, then they created an OpenCost with a lot of people, and so OpenCost is something that they're going to install, and I believe it belongs into the monitoring and observability. And so they install it there. And suddenly they get the insights, right? What is the cost of all the categories? So that we touch on what is the cost of home, because it's a home namespace for the application. And the platform service also, you know, can allocate them more accurate. So that's great. This is UI, how it looks like. And so we touched now also on the container cost reporting, because you kind of solved that now, because now we have the insights, what the cost of a container is. And this is a good example of a centralized team drives FinOps. Driving does not mean it's responsible for, because if you make a FinOps team responsible for your cost efficiency, then they cannot win. It will be just frustrating for them because they're not causing the cost and don't make them responsible. They are an enablement team. And centralized team drives FinOps. In the example, we saw that OpenCost has been installed from a central team, platform team, to everyone's advantage, right? Everyone now has. This can be centrally driven. You don't need to tell your developers, can you please all install OpenCost in your namespace, and then please do. And because probably also face that if you ask, hey, everyone, could you please do, then it will not work out. Right? So, hey, all developers, can you please build in your CI pipeline this? The adoption, I feel it's super hard to reach 100%. Anyway, so we installed it centrally, so now we have the cost per application per namespace. So, and what they also do is they grant access to finance and business owners to the cost data, so they can look it up at any time. So they don't need to ask, I don't know, these ping pong, hey, can you give me? They can look at it, not only at the end of the month, but per day, per hour, etc. So that's nice. And so we are aligning here the finance procurement teams with tech and engineering teams, and the organizational adoption of FinOps has now started, right? So there's cost conscious, and we also touched on the reports should be accessible and timely, because the persons now have access. So let's focus on marketing. They want to get more traffic on the platform to make more money, of course. So, and the business owner is conscious. He says, hey, guy, make sure the platform is fast and good. And he said, yeah, we need to hurry. It will increase costs, right? Because you can only choose 2. And so they do. So they want to have the platform fast and good, so that cannot be cheap. So that is, and so they do, right? So they scale out, scale up, however you want, to be prepared for more traffic. So, and of course, the costs also go up. So they get 100% more users, 1 million visitors, and they make a bit more revenue, like 25%. Okay, so and if you do the math, then it's 60K, so a bit more, right? So, but only 9%. Because we need to increase the costs, but still, more money than before. Nice. They're celebrating it. And this is a good example of that the decisions are driven by business value of cloud, right? So you invest to make more money in the end. So there's nothing wrong with increasing your costs if it turns out to also bring you more money. And they want to increase the profit more. So, and then the finance guy has some ideas. They want to decrease the OpEx. And the business owner is concerned that it could harm the business because you always need to decide, good and cheap won't be fast, right? So you need to pay a bit of attention. Then he says, like, I give it priority. And now we're touching on getting engineers to take action. I think engineers want to optimize things, but often they are held to, I don't know, build features or do something else, right? So it's like enabling the engineers is also, you can do this through automation, but also give them the time. Give it priority. It's like tech debt, kind of. So you need to help them by, if you make the priorities, that you make this a priority, if that is relevant for you. So now we look at the top 3 costs. And AWS is compute, no surprise, virtual machines for Kubernetes. And then per application, you have like the top 3 applications that occur the most of the costs. And then you enter the optimize phase. In the optimize phase, you consider all options to optimize and what you all can do. And the platform team comes up with cluster autoscaler would be a good option. And the DevOps team says it's, for the DevOps team, they consider like right sizing, right? So the size and the amount of their replicas of pods. Operator is actual execution, where you then implement what you selected, pre-selected in the optimize phase. So cluster autoscaler, right? So are you all aware of this? I took here Carpenter because Carpenter is super nice because it replaces a scheduler and gives you just-in-time capacity. So it is like, it will provision just-in-time capacity, so the right VM, that you need for your pod. So it will select of a whole list of instance types and spot instances on demand. It only exists on AWS, but it's coming to Azure, I heard. So that's good news. And yeah, the practitioner is educating on Carpenter and educate them on how it works. And the cluster autoscaler, of course, can only work if you do a proper right sizing. If you waste a lot of resources by having too high resource requests, so the autoscaler cannot do anything. Right? So and that's she's educating here using open cost specifications. There's all kind of vendor neutral language of explaining what idle cost is allocated, cluster overhead. I need to speed up a bit. So, and yeah, there's a lot of resources. What is waste? How is container? There can be topics about right sizing. You can have hours of talking about right sizing strategies, etc. So, and they also say that we need some time. So, and they go back and they install Carpenter. And Carpenter already, just by installing Carpenter, if you ever have done this, you will experience that your cost mostly will be reduced because Carpenter will select way smarter the instance type that you have and will reduce already with no one touched his pod specs here and deployment specs. Right? So it's just like installing Carpenter. It helps already. Oops. And that brings the cost down. And that's nice. So, and we're enabling automation, cluster autoscaling, and reducing waste and unused resources with Carpenter. So, and the practitioner helps with right sizing. So, choosing pragmatic requests and limits, topic on its own, quite complex. And then many days of painful and careful container right sizing later. And here's a short disclaimer: it doesn't have to be painful, but it has to be done careful. And there are lots of tools, like paid tools, that help you here, but we will not, look into these. Remember the FinOps landscape and the CNCF landscape. They do the right sizing, they bring the costs down. And yeah, again, we touched on the waste. And this is a good example that everyone takes ownership for his cloud spend. So, and then the executive says, "I'm ready for the next campaign," and they start. Again, 1 million visitors for simplicity here, and 125K revenue. But the cost, we have reduced the cost, right? So that means the profit has also been increased. And compared to the last time, even 41%. So that's nice. We just said, and they're celebrating it massively because that is a nice move, that you can reduce the cost and just increasing your profit. So, and this is also the advantage of the variable cost model of the cloud, that cluster autoscaler and cloud spend in general is very dynamic. And yeah, so that's why I want to make you think about if it seems, because lots of tools, advertising is about saving money, the FinOps tools, then I would like to think again, because FinOps is about making money. And that's what I wanted to show you, that investing can also lead to more money in the end. There's a new statement now on the website I found yesterday, so they've enhanced it a bit. I like the old one better, but yeah, it's my personal opinion. And that's it. Wait. No, it's not. It's only about making money in the end. No, but it's not. So, and let's do not forget about sustainability and green ops, right? So, and this is something like FinOps and green ops, they're mutually inclusive to some extent. If you do one, you do already the other. And so the exec also likes that, to reduce the carbon footprint. I'm now over time, but I need the last minutes here. And you have like, you have in AWS, you have these carbon footprint tools, and you have the open source tools that can measure the carbon footprint, but be aware of, and also like eBPF-based tools, really interesting, that probes energy-related systems and can display them, how much your systems are being, energy is consumed in the end. And the practitioner comes up then with Graviton and looks it up. What can you do? You can move to Graviton, right? So it's like 25% cheaper and also has a way lower energy and carbon footprint. So they select the initiative moving to Graviton, and she asks if people are knowledgeable about multi-arch, right? Because if you go to AIM, you need to also build, in best case, multi-arch images. They are not knowledgeable. She will organize a session, and this is also what a practitioner can do. And they're happy, lived ever after, for informed, optimized, and operated. And now we're coming to the end, so that FinOps is a cloud financial management discipline to maximize the business value, and it's about collaboration. Yeah? So we touched a bit on the framework. There's way more to explore. Connect ratio, also to join the FinOps Foundation. And we looked at how teams need to collaborate. I will now go a bit faster. And that FinOps is not only about making money, but it's also about caring a bit of the environment. Yeah, and the issue is that we have only one production environment. So think of it. That's it.
Yes, thank you, David. Let's go on to Slido now and ask the questions. You can join Slido by hashtag CD1112. And then, I already have one question. So if we can move to the questions now. So David, what are some tools, methods that you would recommend for automating the optimize phase of the framework?
Yeah. So probably you can look at Goldilocks. It's very old, from Fairwinds, open source project that you can use, but it's just optimizing on a pod level. There are smarter tools out there. So if you ask me about commercial tools, I'm experienced with few, but I cannot tell you for everyone, but like KubeCost is already open source. It gives you some recommendations that you can, very sane actually, that you can just apply. There are like auto pull requests that can be also created from the API of tools like KubeCost, for example. I'm also knowledgeable about Stormforge. So this is machine learning based optimization by just looking at the historical data. This is also where I'm experienced on.
Good. And then we have a second question. How does OpenCost achieve vendor neutrality?
Yeah, so vendor neutrality. So not sure what is exactly meant by this, but the FinOps framework, FinOps Foundation also established now the focus project, the FinOps open cost and usage specification. So it's again, vendor neutral language, because people tend to use the terms like EC2, but they should rather talk about virtual machines, right? So this is like, I mean, it's vendor neutrality is, yeah, I think they're adapting to this terminology. So they teamed up. OpenCOS was running in parallel to Focus. Yeah, so that's hopefully that answers the question of the vendor neutrality, that they use like vendor neutral terms. That's, yeah.
Good. Well, thank you for answering the questions, David. And for the audience, we'll have the coffee break now and the sponsor showcase. So please do go visit our sponsors booth. They will be very happy to show you everything they have to offer.